And welcome to Pulp Mythos. I'm Brian here with Larry, and we're discussing Mare of Easttown, episode number 4. Before we go any further, hit the sub button, hit the the upvote. The upvote. Leave a comment, and we're going to be doing these every week. There's 3 more episodes, and this was a great one. So Katy Bailey is alive.
Yeah, that's a big surprise right there. We got to get that on a T-shirt though. Hit the upvote.
Hit the upvote. I'm actually, I need to start working with the backgrounds and putting little pictures and reminders of that. But yeah, the Katy Bailey's plot. So it was very interesting. This whole episode was meant to throw us off because you spend the entire episode where Dawn Bailey gets the phone call, and a voice is basically saying, "Hey, I have your daughter. Give me $5,000, and you'll get to see her." And so through that, the entire episode, they keep building this up. And we get to the end. I love that she decided not to give the money. She brought a gun, and she's like, "No, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to do what I need to do." Turns out, though, it was all BS, and it was Freddie just trying to get money to support his drug habit. She gets wounded, and it was a really sad moment where she gets back to the house, and her friend Beth, who's Freddie's sister, she's talking to her. She's concerned about her injuries, but you could see it in her face that I think she gave up at that moment. She feels Katie's gone. And then, bam, right after that, another girl had been kidnapped earlier in the episode by, I guess, our villain, and she's being thrown in this dungeon in a Benny's Tavern.
Yeah.
And bam, Katy Bailey is there, alive. So the whole episode was building up the idea that, is she alive? And then it throws, nope, she's not. This was all, a farce. And then it's like, nope, she is alive. How did you feel about that? Do you think it was necessary in terms of, I think it was necessary in terms of Dawn's story, but how did you feel about that whole thing with Freddie and everything?
Well, the thing with Freddie, Freddie's been gone for a while, and it is weird that we brought him back just for this, but I kind of knew it was Freddie from the moment we saw him show back up, because he's been gone for that long, and secondly, I kind of figured they were misleading her anyway, and it was going to be a trick. So if anybody, Freddie was the only character I could think of that would be crappy enough to do this, and there's some really crappy people in this town, like because you saw him show back up, and she's talking to her friend and everything, and there's Freddie, and they're talking about how Freddie's affecting his family. Freddie doesn't even care how he affects his family. We've seen some of the lengths that Freddie will go, and how little he cares, that his habit is affecting other people, it seems. So yeah, I kind of figured it was him. But as far as this lead and finding out that Katy Bailey is actually alive, that was played in a very interesting way, because we didn't get a timetable on the events that were happening. Like we were following someone else throughout the episode, and and their abduction, and and it happened to lead us to Katy Bailey. At first, I didn't know whether that was a flashback, and this girl was Katy Bailey that we were following, or whether that was happening in real time. Apparently it's happening in real time. And this kind of throws a few things into question. Like, was Erin's death a mistake? Like, did she run from this person potentially?
Well, yeah, because now we know, and that was also a big reveal in the episode, that Erin was in fact going to pursue prostitution in order to pay for the ear surgery. She had set up an account. She had, was going to go through with it, or it appeared she would, according to Jess, her best friend. She was highly considering it. But now that we know that she was, possibly going that route, we don't know what happened for, 2 or 3 hours after the incident where, she was assaulted. What we do know is that she had contact with Deacon Mark. He has her bike. He, disposed of it. And we now know that, this whole prostitution thing. We know that the 2 girls that were held captive were in that line of work. So it's all connecting, and clearly the timeline of what Aaron was doing that evening is becoming more and more complicated, but very interesting. All signs are pointing towards Deacon Mark at this point. We know that he had been moved there as a result of supposed interactions with a 14-year-old girl. We know that he had the bike. He disposed of it. He's lying about things. He's hiding. The build of the figure that brought in the new girl that where Katy Bailey was being held. It sort of looks like him. I couldn't completely tell. I watched that clip twice trying to make out who it was. It sort of was his build, basically. Do you think at this point the show is saying, yes, it is him, and now we have 3 episodes to prove it? Or do you think there's something more going on? Is he working with somebody? Clearly, look, it's this tavern. Whoever owns this tavern, it didn't look like busted up or anything. It had a nice sign on the outside. So I'm like, well, somebody owns this. Somebody's paying the electric bill, rent. There's probably more people involved in this. He's been feeding Katie for over a year. So what do you think in terms of Deacon Mark?
Yeah, he's very suspect, because it's the sort of thing where it definitely seems like he's involved in some way. At the very least, I'm kind of pretty sure he's DJ's father. He's the father of Aaron's kid, if anything, because both tests came back negative. And if he's involved, I don't think he's, like you said, I don't think he's the only one, because somebody owns this tavern, and it would be weird for a priest to just show up in town and start running a tavern. I don't think you're allowed to run a tavern officially as a Catholic priest.
I'm not sure about the rules, but I would assume that would be one of them. Yeah.
So I'm assuming more than one person's involved in this. And it may go as far as to fit into our previous theories, which would be even darker, because that would mean that that Aaron's dad's cousin is involved, which means that, like her cousin was involved in this whole thing.
I could see that at this point. Yeah, it looks like they're, like I said, just the fact that he would be able to hold them captive in a somewhat of a public place for this long. Yeah, it just seems like there'd be more people involved, but I don't know. All signs are pointing towards him, though. Definitely.
That's true, and at that, we don't have an occupation. That's one of the people we don't have an occupation for. Aaron, what's Aaron's dad's name again?
I'm going to my old notes. I didn't write it down this week because he was only in. Oh, Kenny. You're talking about Kenny.
Kenny, yes.
Yeah. Kenny's John Ross. That's what we were thinking.
John Ross. Husband. Yeah, we don't. Oh my God, I'm piecing some things together. Yeah, we don't have a occupation for John Ross at all. We don't. And there's more, but I'm going to go into that later. When we're at the point where we're talking about the previews and things.
Well, let's jump to, since we're talking about him and Lori. There is one scene, why was it in there, where they're sitting at the couch, they're watching the news report about the new girl that had been kidnapped, and the son comes in, and he looks upset, and they're just like, oh, we're going to, just got to be careful, blah, 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 but he's sitting on the couch. It looked like something was bothering him, the kid. And I thought, I looked at that scene, I didn't think a whole lot about it when I was watching it, but now going back to say, okay, well, what if that kid's seen something or knows something? Or maybe it was just there just to highlight that, hey, this is a big deal in the community, girls are disappearing. Or maybe there's more to it. I don't know. John Ross, we brought him up. We've brought him up in the past. People have talked about it in their theories in the comments. But, yeah, I don't know, man.
Yeah, and that's... it's the sort of thing where, like you said, there's that one scene. It's like, why are we lingering on this scene? And I was very curious why we're lingering. That was one of the things I was going to mention. Why are we lingering on this kid that we've almost never seen in this show? We may have seen him once,
yeah,
if ever. John Ross is the most suspicious character here. Like I think the priest may be involved, but I think prime suspect right now is John Ross. Just because everybody else, they've gone through a big effort to show you what they do in this town, who they are, what their job is. What are the odds that John Ross owns a bar?
Yeah, that might be the revelation. He's like, I'm just heading to work, honey. Going to the tavern.
Yep.
Named after my Uncle Benny. Yeah, I don't know, man. Continuing on that side of things, we have, like you said, Frank and Dylan are neither are the father. So, the big question mark, who is the father? Is it, Deacon Mark? Is it somebody else? Is it John Ross? Who knows at this point? Or somebody had a theory that it could be Kevin. I don't know. We talked. I can't remember all the theories now. There's so many, but Siobhan's brother, that took
That
his
Kevin
own.
may still be alive, and
Well, there was that theory. There was the theory that what if he was the father? Which would be so. There's a lot of interesting thoughts as far. Well, let's
oh,
go ahead.
yeah, and that would make some sense, and that would also be another reason why Mayor's ex-husband was talking to Aaron. If Kevin was the father, and or he suspected and didn't know for sure.
The show, for whatever reason, tries to, and I don't know if this is bad writing. I want your opinion. So they're trying to build up the idea of, Carrie wants her son back, who's Kevin, Kevin's son as well. And we know she had issues with, drug abuse. She's supposedly clean. Mayor planted the drugs on her, that whole situation. She takes the kid to her, the apartment she has. He ends up wanting to go back to Mayor's house, and we have that whole scene. But it seems like they're trying to build some sympathy towards her. But right before that scene, we have a horrific flashback that made me very irritated, angry, where her and Kevin are just being complete assholes, trying to steal money. They slam the door. They're doing all this horrible shit, and she's cussing out Mayor. And you see that whole sequence, and you're like, oh my God. And then the next scene is like, we need you to be sympathetic towards her. So so when I say bad writing, what I mean is, what is the show trying to get me? What is the emotion they're trying to get out of me? Because they got me not liking her at all and not wanting to give her a second chance. And I don't think that that's necessarily what they want. Do you agree, disagree? Do you think that is what they want? And then maybe they're just doing it in a way that's not working. How do you feel specifically about what they're doing with Carrie?
Well, it's hard to say, because there are so many bad people in this show that it's like it seems like the show's honestly trying to say a lot about maybe particularly in this episode with her and with Dylan about redemption and who actually deserves it, and maybe that's where they were trying to go with it, just kind of show off things of that yeah, she was just kind of a holy terror, and Mayor did have good reason for trying to shut her out, but maybe plant the idea in your head that if she is trying not to be this person anymore, maybe she should be forgiven. But it's hard to say. Like you said, it's kind of muddled because in most shows you would have got that scene earlier or late. Well, that flashback earlier or later, and you'd get her doing this now. But I think it would have been a little cleaner if they showed it from one perspective now and another next episode or the previous episode. Just to sort.
You're right. If they had showed that flashback an episode ago, and then you jump to this episode and you show her getting the apartment ready and doing all that, and maybe I would have felt differently. But it was back to back scenes, and like I said, you go from looking like for me, the viewer, and the audience. I'm curious to what y'all have to say. I was like, I don't trust Carrie or want to. But look, I'm not saying people can't be redeemed and they can't change their lives, but also we're not completely clear on, I guess it's been a year or so, a couple of years. So, I don't know.
Well, yeah, it's that kind of thing too. It hasn't been that long from what it seems.
Yeah, it was a strange choice, I thought, to put those scenes back to back.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, it's just, it hasn't really been that long, it's maybe been like Mayor's son killed himself. They said what, 2 years ago?
It was a couple. Yeah, I think it was like 2 or 3, maybe. But then the kid, I'm trying to think how old the kid is. Oh shit, he's running around. He talks, so he's pretty old.
Yeah, I think he's like yeah, he doesn't seem to be in grade school or anything. You never see him getting off of a bus or anything.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think they need to show us more of Kevin. If they're gonna, it's the first time they were like, yeah, we're gonna do a flashback. Cool, I'm down for that. But I think we need a little bit more to understand that relationship, because I still have a lot of questions about him and Mare. Why did he hate her so much? We need to get to the root of that. And maybe, they introduced the therapist, Gail, and we get one quick scene where basically Mare is like, yeah, therapists don't typically work for me. I'll show up on time, I'll do the work, but, chances are we're not going to have any real results. I'm assuming that character's whole purpose is going to be maybe to dig into that storyline and give us the answers that we're missing at this point.
Yeah. It'll be that, and to give us those answers about Mare that Mare normally wouldn't say in most settings. That maybe she'll be that character to get this sort of harder edged character to open up in ways that they normally wouldn't. Which I can't say for certain because I haven't watched the show, but I think that was the purpose of the therapist in The Sopranos.
Yeah, to some degree. Yeah.
So it's that kind of thing. That, and we got a little bit of comedy at it. Nothing that's going to have you rolling, of course, but a little bit of a chuckle. Mare's preconceived notions, which ran from the therapist to her home life and everything, and just her saying like, I'm pretty sure most cops are pretty resistant to this, and I'm not going to give you any trouble. She's like, yeah, I don't normally have any trouble. Okay, all right, and then later on when she's like, don't try to stop me from doing my job, Ma, and she's like, I was just going to ask you to get the popcorn out the microwave.
There was a lot of comedy, and there's one really lengthy sort of comedy scene, which we'll talk about here in a moment. But before we do, let's talk about Saturday Night Live, just briefly, So this past weekend, they did a full sketch about Mare of Easttown, and I thought it was pretty funny. I thought as far as who played who, and some of the jokes were really funny. The sandwich thing was my favorite, because we've spoken about how everybody's always eating sandwiches, and Mare, she's always eating a sandwich, and that they make fun of that. The accent, the ending with the Deacon Mark shows up with the bicycle, and all the different bits. I just wanted to get your take on it. I thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny, and that's one thing I was going to mention earlier. It's like SNL certainly thinks that it's Deacon Mark.
He just walks in with the bike,
and they're like, "Oh, it's the priest." Yeah, I should have figured that. Clearly, it's the priest. But yeah, it's a pretty funny bit, and a lot of funny, relevant jabs. Something which unfortunately we haven't gotten a lot of from SNL lately, but they were kind of on point with this one.
So the funny part I was going to go into was the odd sort of Siobhan storyline. So it was odd this week. She didn't have a whole lot of screen time. But what we did find out was that she broke up with, I got their names. Hold on. Becca, who was also in her band. So she breaks up with Becca, and she's like, "Yeah, we're done." And she's clearly hooking up with Ann, who's that DJ at the college. So, there's a couple scenes where she's showing her the Kevin video project she's working on, which I'm assuming is going to play a big role later, or we'll get to see it, or there'll be something with it. So she's like, "I'll take you home." She drives her home. Oh, before that, excuse me, Becca shows up to Mare's house and is like, and the grandma there, Helen, and she's like, "Hey, we broke up, but can I talk to her?" And she's like, "She's not here." So she's like, "Yeah, go down in the basement and just chill." So Becca goes down in the basement. She's listening to her music, hanging out. Siobhan and Ann, they arrive. They start making out in the car, and they're just like, "Hey, let's take this to the basement and, do what we do." They get in there. They're going at it. Becca gets up and loses her mind. Now, the comedy bit is Helen's coming in. She's like, "What the hell's going on?" She hits that door so damn hard, knocks Helen the fuck out. Ambulance has to come take her to the hospital. Everybody feels bad about the situation. It's a crazy, wild situation. I thought it had some humor to it. But then after it was all done, I was like, what was the point of any of this? It was fine with me, but how did you feel about that whole sort of gag? I don't know even what you would call it, because it basically led to Helen getting knocked out. That was sort of the
yeah, and Helen's been disoriented for seemingly the rest of the episode and everything. Well, it was it was kind of world building, and or should I say, just kind of building those interconnected relationships. It seems like to me, and I know we reference this show a lot too, but it seems like they're trying to pull a Twin Peaks, but kind of in reverse. Like you're getting these relationships early on. You're getting to know these people before you see their weird quirks, and the quirks are filling in the cracks later, or you're seeing them form, as the show goes on. Because we're Twin Peaks, the way Twin Peaks started, there was a lot of drama, there was a lot of weirdness, and you had no idea why, and it was part of the mystery. Here we have a mystery, and the town is kind of weird and messed up, but it's getting weirder as it goes along, and we're getting odd characters that are thrown into the mix later. It does have a very Twin Peaks feel, and I know a lot of people say that, and I feel they're wrong when they say that, because they just mean, oh, it's a mystery and it's a little bit quirky, but no, it's the town's strange enough, and it is very much focused on the people of this town and their relationships, about as much as the mystery.
Well, like you said, it was funny because the whole sequence, it felt sitcom-y, but not in a bad way. Let me make that clear. Not in a bad way, but it almost had, like you said, you have this sort of serious murder mystery going on, and then you just sort of have this little 5-minute, almost sitcom-y type thing that's placed in there.
Well, absolutely, because the grandmother pulling the ice cream out of the bag of peas and then trying to hide it,
yes, yeah,
and then saying, "Well, yeah, sure, just go wait in the basement," and then just going back for ice cream. You could have put a laugh track to that, and it would have fit in a sitcom perfectly. So yeah, it was very sitcom-y.
They even had music. I don't know if you know, they've done it in almost every episode, but they have this little music they play that's not the typical soundtrack for the show. It's almost sitcom-y. That's the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
And yeah. So, anyways, it's there. But I agree with you. The sort of the world building and getting us to know these characters more. I will officially say, I've had suspicions about Siobhan. I think I'm going to take those away. I still think she's hiding something. I just don't know what it is, but I don't think she's in any way connected to the murder. I do think she's keeping a secret. I just don't know what that secret is. So
it seems like it, and not only that, but like it may be more to do with this little documentary she's putting together. Because, like I said, her mentioning of Mare in it during the parts we got to hear her record about Mare, seemed like they might be going somewhere a little hurtful. So this documentary she's doing, or this thing that she's putting together, could be something that just kind of seems surprisingly hurtful or crass. That may be a big deal. Like you said, I'm still a little suspicious. There's something she's hiding, because like you said that.
Oh, she's hiding something. I believe. Yeah.
The show focuses on her a lot, and like you said, she's just real tired out of nowhere for some reason. And I get the feeling that her parents know that she smokes pot, so I don't think that's like the big revelation. I
don't think they care about that.
Yeah, I think Frank at least is aware, if anything, because
great. Mare makes that. She's like, oh, her room. I think she says her room smells like pot or something like that. Like, I'm pretty sure they're aware. Daughter's in a band. I mean, come on.
Well, I mean, her girlfriend's kind of a giveaway.
Well, her girlfriend's a little overboard with the with the drug stuff. I mean, they were hot shit. They were high than that one night. Yeah, I don't think that's in.
If that's the big surprise, I'm going to be surprised that Mare doesn't know. If that's the reason she's supposedly was tired and everything, and it's like, oh, Siobhan's secretly smoking pot. It's like, well, you showed us that at the beginning, and also, like, from what I'm seeing, I'm sure everybody else in town knows. How would Mare not know that?
Yeah, I don't think that's it. Yeah. Anything else on that particular part of the show?
No, like you said, she's hiding something. I don't know whether or not it's related to the murder at this point. Like, I think she may have some relevant information that is related to it that she hasn't said, because she does seem to be the kind of person that is closely guarded and keeps to herself. So I think like she has some relevant information. I just don't think she knows how relevant it is, because she also seems like the kind of person that would also say something.
We talked about it last week. The preview for this week, we saw Dylan walking over to the baby carriage thing or pin, the pin with the pillow. And, it was like, oh no. Well, we get a couple scenes with Dylan this episode. He learns the truth that it is, in fact, not his biological child. His parents are basically like, well, who cares? We've been raising it. And, what's the kid's name? DJ. Yeah. Like, we love DJ, and, it's not DJ's fault. We're going to raise him or whatever. It seems that seems to be their attitude. And he's just like, get him out. I don't care. And he's really pissed off. We get another scene where he wakes up, the kid's screaming, crying, his mother's out getting coffee or whatever. And he gets up and he does walk over with the pillow. He absolutely does. And he gets to, and so this is a well done scene. He gets to the thing and he looks at the baby and he puts the pillow down and you see a little tear forming in his eye, and he carefully and slowly picks up DJ and cradles him, and he starts holding him. And my assumption is sort of, that's Dylan coming to terms with, what, I'm going to raise this child. Not saying Dylan's going to be a good father at all, but I think he's coming to peace with the fact that, okay, Aaron's gone, this kid needs a home, and maybe his parents are going to raise the kid. Basically, that's what I get from all this. But
oh yeah, they're gonna raise this kid while he plays video games all day. And
he drinks Monster.
Right, and hangs out in the woods with his friends. They're going to raise this kid.
And there's even
so basically, Dylan's essentially getting used to the idea. It's less, maybe it is okay to raise this kid, and more, maybe it is all right to have a little brother.
There's the line where they're talking to, I think it's Jess, about Aaron, and they're like, well, why did she want Dylan's family, and she's like, well, his parents she thought would be great. Like, Aaron sort of strategically seems to have chosen Dylan because she knew the parents would be good.
Right.
She knew the child at least had that going for him. So there you go.
Yeah, exactly. She's like, well, his parents will do a good idea. Like, the hope is, I guess, especially seeing how crappy Dylan is in his day-to-day life, that he doesn't step up as a father, because if he does, he could really mess this kid up.
It's like, I'll raise you as my own.
It's like, you'll be just like me. Well, there's one more question about that too, if you think of it. Well, do you think Aaron's dad may be getting out of jail sometime? Probably not this season. No. But
I mean, he'll attempted murder. He'll get he should get some pretty hefty charges. I don't know. I don't see any scenario where he gets custody ever.
Yeah. Well, it's the sort of thing. Well, yeah, I guess they technically have been raising the kid, so it's kind of.
Maybe his cousins or brothers or whatever arguably could go for it.
That's true.
There is that possibility. Lori and John Ross. I could see. I mean, maybe it goes there. I don't know.
I would say John Ross is potentially a very bad man. It's like that's a worse scenario.
Yeah.
If John Ross is who we think he might be.
Yeah, definitely. So we have ourselves a love triangle, another love triangle. We have the Siobhan, Anne, and Becca situation going on, but Becca's basically, she's out. Siobhan has made her mind up. But we have a true love triangle we have Richard, Mare, and Mr. Zabel, Detective Zabel himself. Richard, has a conversation with Maris, basically invites her to his birthday party or whatever. He's going to take her out on a Saturday. He's like, hey, you free Saturday? Let's go out, have dinner, celebrate. Well, Mare ends up doing exactly what we said. She was going to go to Zabel's, Colin Zabel, and basically be like, "Hey, I'm going to work the case with you, and then you'll just do all the shit so that they don't see that I'm doing it." And that's exactly what they do. And after they do some investigating, he's just like, "Hey, what are you doing Saturday?" And I love the whole scene because he's like, "Hey, my friend's got this restaurant. We're gonna do this, that. Are you, you want to go?" And she gives him that look like, "No, but I don't know. Do I? Maybe." And she has a fun line with her mom towards the end with Helen, where she's basically like, "Hey, what are you doing Saturday?" And she's like, "I'm not really sure yet," which leads me to believe she's contemplating both. Um, what do you? I'm enjoying it because I'm curious to where this is headed. I mean, Mare's like, "Hey, why not?" So, do you think she's legitimately looking at Zabel as in any kind of romantic way, or is Richard her guy, or what? How do you feel about Richard? You've said the possibility. What if Richard is the villain in all of this? I hope not.
I hope not. It's too cliche.
But in terms of this love triangle, we will call it at this point. What are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I think it's a little crappy of Mare to, like not, because it seems like she's been with Richard for a little while now, and like maybe needs to clarify what that is because I can see that spiraling out of control, and just well, there are some epic arguments in this show when these two find out about each other. I could definitely see that being one, like, but yeah, she clearly has interest in both. She clearly does, and this is a recently divorced mayor just finally kind of playing the field,
Yeah, what was up with Colin's mom? Well, she was staring down Mare so hard. Um, I like that scene where she's like, "I just want to have a couple beers and do this right, work this case." But that I guess that was an interesting scene in giving us a little more into who Colin Zabel really is because he's with his mom. I'm assuming they live together, maybe.
hmm
And she's they're having their dinner and they're talking about work, and he's this hero detective and she's real proud of him. And then this mayor shows up and who's this girl? And I don't know, it was a little awkward of a scene, but yeah, what did you think about that? Like I said, I think it was just more showing us who Colin Zabel is as a character.
Well, yeah, I think he lives with his mom because she was in the kitchen cooking a dinner and everything, and and it's like it's rare for. Well, I mean, it happens from time to time, I'm sure, in a lot of families, but it's rare for your families to just pop in like that and use your kitchen, you know, outside of holidays and family get-togethers. Like, so, yeah, I imagine he lives with his mother. Uh, it's like, but yeah, and that had to be his house because that's where Mayor found him.
Yeah,
She just showed up and knocked on his door. Uh, so yeah, that was a little interesting dynamic. I'm pretty sure his mom, just hates. She seems to hate Mayor. I'm sure she does. Like, but she just really seems like the nosy type. Like she was trying to listen in on their business and everything they're doing.
Mare's the kind of character I kept waiting for her, and I literally was like, is she gonna say something, because she kept looking over and the mother's just staring, and I kept waiting for her to lean over to Colin, can you tell your mother to fuck off? Like I kept waiting for that line, and it never came. But I was just like, I felt it. I felt like the character wanted to say it, but it never happened. Um, but yeah, it's interesting. I'm curious now. Now I'm really curious to who she's going to go out with that Saturday, or is she going to do some weird thing where she does both?
Right. Yeah, that's a good question, and it's like I don't know. Like I'd feel real slapped in the face if I offer to take someone out on my birth. Like you've been dating for a while, and you're like, you know what? I'm going to treat you on my birthday. Yeah, you're like I'm not expecting a gift or anything, and
What if
and
she
then
takes
just
Colin
to
to
his
Richard's
birthday,
birthday? That way she figures, well, okay, we'll do that, and then we'll go do drinks at your friend's restaurant.
right? Like we'll do that. We'll drink at your friend's restaurant, and it's like, and then we'll figure this thing out. Or maybe Mary just doesn't care. She's like, oh, whichever way the ball lands.
I guess if both guys are in the know and they don't care, whatever.
Right?
Um, so this was odd. So when they go to Jess's house and they're talking about the whole situation, and they learn the truth that Aaron was considering, getting into the prostitution, and now that ties Aaron directly to these two missing girls. One of the things that Mare had learned online was that Aaron has journals, and she's assuming that she keeps a lot of her personal stuff in those. So what I thought was odd was she, for whatever reason, didn't want Colin to know this. So she goes back to Jess, claiming that she lost her phone, asks where the journals are, and then she goes to Aaron's house looking for the journals. She finds a little locket thing with a specific date. I didn't write the date down, but it has a date on it. I'm assuming that's super important to the case. Well, not so much. Okay, the journal thing would be, she finds the journal, she'll learn a lot of stuff. Okay, she found the locket thing. Cool. My question more so is why do you think she didn't want Colin to know about this evidence? Because I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, that was a good question. Like, maybe it just came to mind, or maybe it's the sort of thing where she felt that she'd be more comfortable telling it to her than to her and Colin. Like, it could be either of those, like that, because Mayor is a local. Everybody knows everybody in this town. They've made that clear. They've got all these old relationships, and
Another joke in the SNL sketch.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly. That's my
Everybody was
cousin.
related.
That's my cousin. That's my granddaughter over there.
Yes.
So yeah, exactly. It's a very close, small town. So maybe Mayor felt she'd be more comfortable just telling her. Like that's my assumption.
Yeah, maybe. But then it was weird that she didn't go back and tell him, "Hey, let's go to the house. Let's look." It was weird. Like I said, I couldn't figure it out. It's just like, yeah, it's just like she wants to do this on her own for whatever reason. Or maybe she suspects. Well, what if there's something about Frank in there? And maybe she wants to have the information first and then make a determination on what she's going to do. I don't know. Maybe there's something there to that. Where she's like, I want to see it first, and then I'll determine what gets out and what doesn't. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting that she specifically seemed to not want Colin to know about this potential evidence.
Well, yeah, and I think you're right when you say that. Maybe it had something to do with the other people at the precinct and his new partner, because the guy already led them one direction already, and who's to say they get the journal, they won't take it another, and at that, it's a small town where everybody knows each other, so everyone, including someone that potentially some of the police officers that Mayor work with, or could be a little suspect there. They could be involved, like. Like if she really wants to solve this thing, I guess keeping certain bits of information close to the cuff could be the best way, because we've already seen that Mayor seems to be a very competent detective, and yet the case the case went cold regardless, and it seems like what we've seen over the last few episodes, if anyone's going to figure it out, she's going to. So what are the odds that someone that she was sabotaged by another detective or police officer?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm thinking about it now. I think that may very well be part of her line of thinking as to why she kept that to herself. I said last week we each week we would now there's only 3 left, but we'll until the show directly tells us, we'll make our prediction. Who do you think it is? Like I said, I Siobhan was someone I really thought had some involvement. Like I said, I think she's keeping a secret, but at this point, I think she has nothing to do with the murder in any way. That's my thoughts this week. I'm going to lean towards Deacon Mark is clearly heavily involved in to some degree, but I think he possibly has an accomplice. So I'm going to say Deacon Mark and somebody else, potentially John Ross. Where are you this week in terms of what do you think? Who do you think it was that killed Aaron?
Well, I'm going to say Deacon Mark and John Ross. honestly.
So,
Those are my two. Like, I don't think Deacon Mark. Well, yeah. Well, we talked about it beforehand that there's a lot of reasons. Like, okay, when we got the Deacon Mark could heavily be involved, especially given the way he talks about religion in the first place, and the fact that these killings are clearly around. Like, it seems like the killer has some sort of obsession with purity or something, because he's targeting people on this site. And and there's the fact that Aaron apparently didn't have any clients or anything yet, which says to me that, okay, there's two options here. Either she mentioned that she was considering it during confession, or somehow the web developer's involved. Which, again, we don't know John Ross's job, so maybe he's the web developer.
John Ross runs the website.
Yeah, he has a bar and he does web development on the side. So potentially John Ross.
I hope that he's runs that bar and he's a web
developer.
And that he's running that site.
It's like only one in this town with those skill sets is John Ross.
That's great. Yeah, I'm leaning towards those two are the most. Those are the two that I've got my eye on now. Like I said, I still think there's other secrets that tie to other things that we're going to learn. Clearly, the Kevin storyline tying to Mare and what exactly happened and led to him, taking his own life. I think there's more to that, and we're going to learn it. Who, in fact, is the father of Aaron's son? Is it Deacon Mark, or is it another person? These are all little mysteries that I'm looking forward to finding the answers to. But like we said last week, I'm curious to everybody. Leave a comment. What do you think? Are you leaning towards those things? Do you have a completely different theory? Is there something we missed and you're like, no, it's clearly this? Definitely put that in the comments below. We had a good time reading the comments last week and conversating with the audience, so we enjoyed doing that. I've exhausted my notes. Is there anything I missed or that you want to talk about regarding episode 4 of Mare of Easttown?
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah, I want to discuss that preview. Did you see the preview for our next episode?
Yes.
Like, that's another reason why I think John Ross, because Mare's friend seems awfully distressed about something, and she says she didn't see it before. And Mare's kind of asking her to elaborate on what it is that she seems so distressed about. And correct me if I'm wrong, isn't John Ross her husband? Isn't that?
Yes, Lori is the character, and yeah, John Ross is her husband. Yeah,
so it's like all these little key bits of information are in some way pointing at John Ross. We don't know his occupation. He's the only one in town whose occupation we don't seem to know. This person would have had to either run a website or a bar. Father what's his name seems like he's potentially involved, and at the very least, he is the father of this child. I'm pretty sure. Or it's just weird that he happened to have Aaron's bike.
Yeah. Do you think could there be a twist where father, is it Dan?
I believe it's Dan.
Yeah, do you think there could be some wild twist where he's Mare's cousin, where he knows something? I don't think so, but I'm just at this point, throw everybody out. There's a bunch of websites out there that have like almost a bracket of they keep moving around. Who do you think each week based on the information? It is a good mystery. I give them this. It's one that's like, how is this all working? But
it could be Dan. It could be Dan, and he could be trying to put suspicion on Mark, in order to cover himself.
But I'm going to stick for today until we get more information. I am going to stick with Deacon Mark and John Ross. There's something going on with him. I think so.
Well, I'll say this too. One more point into the idea that it could be Dan is they got an anonymous tip asking to ask about Mark's transfer. Like, who would know about that other than Dan? Dan's one of the few people that's privy to that information.
Yeah, that you make a good point. And he's also so far been the least suspicious in terms of he's around everything, but
Hmm.
we haven't seen him do anything really too questionable. So that is a possibility as well. Um,
Yeah, for all we know, Mark was wheeling out that bike because he found it near his house because Dan planted it there.
and we also have the idea that going back to sort of the John Ross idea, tying with it, Lori coming and saying the twist. She's like, "Hey, Mayor, Frank is involved in XYZ." And wouldn't it be crazy if it's like, no, Lori, it's your husband that's involved in XYZ. So uh, it's such a small ass town, man.
Yeah, right.
Everybody's connected.
It's like in exactly which points the finger at some of these characters, because it's like everybody's connected, and someone who has intimate knowledge of these connections could easily throw a lot of this evidence. Lord, like Mayor talks about the case over a family dinner, the initial case where Katy Bailey goes missing, and that gives Dan the time he needs to throw her off. He's like, okay, well, she's looking this direction. I'll do this. So that puts some suspicion his way, and just generally towards people who have lived in that town for a long time, because, well, for one, they're so closely connected that to me that's part of what makes this has allowed this mystery to be unsolved for so long, is the fact that it's got to involve someone with intimate knowledge of the people in this town.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Do you think this is a show that could have a second season? Because I was thinking about this. It's being billed as it's a one and done type situation. It's a set story similar to The Undoing. It's like, okay, we got a murder mystery, but the way they're building some of these characters and really expanding them, I was like, are they trying to build it to be a series where you have multiple seasons? Um, that's sort of my last thought. Yeah, well, I don't know. What do you think about that? Because I was thinking about some of the, like you said, there's a lot of like character stuff, and they're really fleshing out storylines that aren't necessarily tied directly to the murder, but are still enjoyable and interesting. Um,
Yeah, absolutely. And it's this sort of thing where you could definitely have multiple seasons. Like maybe this mystery links to something else once it's solved. Perhaps there's more questions. If it is a bigger thing and there are more people involved, there may have been someone who enabled all this in some way. Like I could definitely see, like a good enough writer could definitely spin this into another season, or another investigation of some kind.
uh, yeah. Anything else?
That's all I have.
Awesome. We appreciate everyone listening. Like I said, we enjoy the back and forth in the comment section. I try to answer some things and get in there and give the old thumbs up and acknowledge that I try to read everything. So we appreciate that. We're going to be doing, like I said, the remaining episodes of this. We got City on the Hill season finale coming up. The Girlfriend Experience Sunday evenings, and we got some other plans coming up later this month and into next month. So if there's anything coming up show wise that you really want us to do, let us know in the comments, and we'll look at it and think about it depending on what it is. So we appreciate everyone listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye.